So my question is like this. So, I heard this really interesting statement recently that it took Netflix to really to bring European content to a global audience, right? So, without Netflix, a series like Dark, created in Germany, would never have reached the audience that it reached. And so the question is, does Europe have a chance to create a pan-European media, to create content that is truly at a global level, competitively, and that can succeed without allies in big tech? And if so, who is that? Are we supposed to shout and knock on Spotify's door so that they start supporting and growing our local media scene? And as a follow-up, can we do so with the current legislation that we have in Europe? Because GDPR, while great for European citizens, is arguably one of the reasons why we won't have the next Netflix growing up in our backyard. Who wants to take that one? Natalie.
Okay, Jakub, listen, that's a huge question, but I'm going to challenge you on this because it's actually not a topic.
Okay.
I understand it's a real question, but I understand your question. But your question is, can European media or European content go global, right? Mm-hmm. That's not quite the question that I think should drive us. We need to think about how among ourselves on this complex, messy, complex continent, how we can better interchange and exchange ideas, information, have that sense that we are part of something which connects us, and it's our geographical proximity. That's the real challenge we have, because if we let our conversation in Europe be driven by, things that are, either from the Silicon Valley or from we're never gonna, or from, God forbid, Chinese media when they arrive. We're gonna miss that chance to actually become enlightened, to use that word, about what are the challenges we need to address, what can we do together, and how can we find solutions. And I think that's, the media space is actually plugged into a much bigger, almost like existential question for us. So I would say that the first things first, let's see how we can actually connect better across our space, because we don't really know each other that well. I believe we don't really know each other that well in Europe. We tend to look across the Atlantic or elsewhere more than we actually look deeply at each other. And so that for me is the real question. If we can grab markets outside of Europe, that's fine. But let's first try to sort it out within this space. It's big enough, right? I don't know if that answers your question.
I think that's a really good answer. What I'm wondering is, where is the funding going to come from? Because I think you correctly pointed out that, state is limited, the philanthropic, there are some limitations. Google is giving a lot of money, but Google is, it would be nice if we had our own sort of tech, budding tech giants stepping in, or I don't know, would it be nice, Paul, Mick, do you see a partnership with European tech, let's say mid-sized players in the future?
Tech mid-size, sorry, Paul, I jumped in, but you can please go ahead.
I'm basically talking about Spotify. I don't know who else there is that would be relevant.
Yes, Spotify, obviously a Swedish company, but very Americanized, of course, and took a big chunk of the market. And I think in the podcasting industry, which is a part of the media nowadays, it makes a lot of sense to look to Spotify or other players, Anchor FM, to see how they could promote. I know that, for instance, in Berlin, you have the Next Media Accelerator also investing in tech-based news journalism. things. There's probably equivalents in the Netherlands and UK and a lot of these countries, of course, that are deeply trying to invest like crazy into a startup scene, which also of course includes a lot of media or platform based new solutions. I don't know if it's a solution for the media market as such, but it could definitely increase impact. Paul, you said that Google is a big oak that we can maybe shake and shake for its money. Natalie warns for Google, so I think it's also a bit of a debate, obviously, to see what to take and under which tree to sit. I hope there's going to be a European player that has the same size tree as Google is. I don't know. I'm a bit wary of taking money as an independent media player. I think we have enough people willing to pay for news. Also, thought Natalie, that was one of your also most interesting slides, the post-COVID media space, what it could look like. People were probably very willing to pay for media, but that's reader revenue, and then a lot of philanthropic money. So I think a mix of that could really provide a post-COVID or current media model that is different from the Anglo-American model, which I think would help. So maybe we need to bypass these tech companies.
I mean, I'm actually with you on Google, definitely. So I'm not willing to shake that oak. We haven't done so, and I think that's something that I'm quite careful about as well. I would say though, Jakub, I mean, we're now talking big tech companies. I think there's a lot of big companies in Europe that have an interest to support European media. So, the one thing is doing it through a sort of more B2B offer sort of, to some extent what our Europe also has from, is doing, being embedded in this world of institutions of as far as I, correct me if I'm wrong, Mick, absolutely. I think, to some extent, companies are willing to do workshops the same with us, right? There's certain points of overlap where I think there's already a broad European sort of network of companies that is interested in European projects to some extent. I don't think we don't have the European equivalent of Google, and that's fine. I think this kind of more patchy world, right, where you have we have media players that do kind of match US companies. If we look at Axel Springer, none of them we deal with, or none of them we have worked with. But there are big companies, and there are companies from all across the board, say car produce manufacturers. There are loads of different companies that have interests. Of course, you shouldn't have them buy you in any sense, right? They shouldn't have editorial influence, but there are ways to mitigate that. And I think that is an interesting question to ask if you're trying to set something up in terms of revenue streams, right? I mean, if you do conferences and you have representatives from companies wanting to join, and they support the conference, that's one thing, right? That doesn't have any influence on the editorial line. So I think there is a chance there, but as Mick said, when it comes to those super big tech, I would rather, if at any way possible, take a different turn.
Okay. So just one of the questions from the chat, it would be, building on this question of where do you raise money from? How much of an appetite is there from, let's say the big donors that are present in Europe, whether they're European or not, to fund pan-European media projects? Are they excited when you show up with a deck saying like, look, we have this fantastic new project? Or do they sort of groan and be like,
Yeah, I mean, my experience has just been there is a willingness. I mean, you need to find them. They're far and few between. So you're not going to get your standard VC-minded family office investor, I guess, who is trying to maximize returns within a certain time frame and has his formula or her formula lined up in how to invest in whatever. That is a tough case, I think. You do find a lot. that's my sense as well, is you find people who are really willing to invest in projects, and they have understood, and I think this is crucial, that that they have some sort of responsibility that they want to live up to, and they also have interests that matter to them, right? I mean, we had one investor who we talked to at some point who said, yes, I always wanted to read Le Monde in German. You know, that was always my big dream, because I'm terrible at French. I want to get, you know, and so there seems to be some of these things are very small, but there is also the sense of, yeah, I think an understanding that, especially with Google lined up and the big tech coming, there is a sense of, hey, we have the capital, let's try it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Hannah, you were raising your hand, or I'm okay. Very good. Look, just moving forward, it is Friday night. We're all sort of eager to move along. We propose to have a quick drink amongst friends, so we're all now going to disappear into our rooms. Feel free to share, to start drinking more heavily. And for those who are already tired, because I know that it's been a long week, you know, feel free to also move out. We will then reassign the rooms if they become too small. But basically, I really wanted to thank you. I thought this was very interesting. We will be sharing, you know, cutting up these videos, sharing them, sharing the presentations, and following up. You know, this is a great topic that I think we will explore for a long time to go. I hope with more and more successes of pan-European media, and I hope more and more meetings as well in person, when we can actually go for real drinks and celebrate. And maybe the place to do that will be London, ironically, at least the closest in the future. So just in case we don't see each other, yeah,